How many of you watching this video today could confirm that you indeed make it a daily responsibility to unplug from your environment? We've become a society of fast-paced, constantly stimulated beings that rarely take the time to truly decompress and remove all of those stimuli of our lives, giving our body an attempt to help heal itself and reduce tension. In this episode, I'm going to discuss this notion of relaxation and how it is a critical component to overcoming your back pain. Hey friends, it's Michael with Total Physical Therapy, and in this episode we are continuing our discussion of overcoming spine complications. And in a prior video, I opened this discussion to what rest means in healing our back pain. Now we're going to take that discussion and elaborate and now talk about relaxation. Now if you combine inadequate rest with a inability to relax and remove yourself from all the stimuli of your lives, you are creating a recipe for disaster. Now, it's true that a lot of us are fully efficient and capable of multitasking, but what I see too often is that these multitaskers multitask on top of multitasking. Now, this approach to dealing with daily stresses day after day is ultimately going to take its toll on the body, and oftentimes we find that in chronic states of pain, we've identified individuals that are living a day-to-day life with these many stresses, never having an opportunity or never understanding that they need to take the opportunity to remove some of these stresses temporarily or permanently. Now, when we're talking about relaxation, there's a couple key elements to this. And number one, we need to first understand this idea and the concept of heart rate. So if you are unfamiliar with taking a heart rate, I'm going to give you two very simple ways to take your heart rate and be able to identify what is normal versus abnormal. We're also going to discuss the idea and the notion that many of our electronics today already take our heart rates. The wearables like the iWatches and other companies that design these smartwatches, these are constantly taking data that most of us just truly ignore. And if you go back, it gives you a window of opportunity to go back and see how stresses create moments of elevated heart rates and reducing heart rates when you're at ease. So I ask you viewers to comment down below. How many of you can tell us what your resting heart rate is? What your average heart rate is over the course of the workday? What your average heart rate is over the course of a weekend or in an evening after work? Now, my guess is that many of those comments down below would suggest that you indeed don't know what your resting heart rate is or what your heart rate is for any of those other instances. Simply identifying your heart rate can give you a wealth of knowledge and information that can be valuable in helping to establish when you need to implement in these relaxation strategies. Now, the easiest way to locate this artery is to simply take one or two fingers, lie those fingers across the body, across on the opposite side of the neck. With a little bit of inward pressure, you're going to start to feel a pulsing event. Now, that pulsation is indeed every beat of the heart. Now, you can take your heart rate by counting the number of beats that you feel in, say, a 15-second window, multiply that times 4, a 30-second times 2, or most specifically, take an entire 60-second window of how many beats that you feel in that 60 seconds, and that truly is your current heart rate for that moment in time. Now, heart rate has a range. We suggest that anything from 60 beats per minute up to 100 beats per minute would be considered a normal resting heart rate. Now, if your heart rate's a little lower than 60 beats per minute, we want to identify whether or not you have some medical conditions that might predispose you to having a lower heart rate, or you may just be a healthily trained individual that has a lower resting heart rate. If your heart rate is over 100 beats per minute, we also want to identify if you have any medical complications that could be creating that, or maybe you are indeed overworked and stressed and creating this higher resting heart rate. In either case, a heart rate too low or too high could be a reason to seek medical attention. Now, Other locations of taking the heart rate would be across one's wrist, on the palm aspect of your wrist, preferably over here on the side of your thumb. That pulse is typically a little bit stronger, but you do have an equal heart rate over here on the opposite side of the wrist. But you can simply take a couple fingers across that thumb side of the wrist and do the same calculations that you did up here. Whichever location works best for you, just stick with something consistent. Now, the beauty of heart rate is that as we increase our efforts or as our stress levels go up, our heart rate will increase, and it's easier to feel a more pronounced, faster moving heart rate. Now, in addition to these two locations on the body, we do oftentimes have some wearables like smartwatches that can and do track this information on a daily basis. These are brilliant pieces of equipment to be able to see some consistency in what is happening with your heart over the duration of a day. Now, furthering our discussion off of heart rate, let's talk about what some of the effects of relaxation create. Relaxation is going to improve our resting heart rate. This typically means that we are lowering that resting heart rate. If you are in a stress-free environment, in a completely relaxed state, you might actually find your heart rate falls down to those lower boundaries, if not lower than that 60 beats per minute window. Your blood pressure levels will fall. Your respiratory rates will fall. Digestion and blood sugar levels improve with relaxation. There is also improvement in the blood flow throughout the body. So each and every time that heart rate pumps, it is able to circulate blood, and therefore the nutrients and minerals that the rest of the body needs. Fatigue levels will drop. Your sleep will improve with the effects of relaxation. Other effects of relaxation include increased mental clarity and increased confidence finding solutions. This helps with the psyche of dealing with your spinal pain. And as this entire series is focused on spinal pain, we have to understand why we're even talking about relaxation, because relaxation is a guarantee that you can reduce both chronic as well as acute pains. This is happening through neuroplasticity in the brain, giving your brain a better opportunity to truly assess and determine what are pains that are informative versus pains that are threatening. The last factor I'll talk about as an effect of relaxation, it ultimately increases the body's healing capacity. All of these effects of relaxation are critical when dealing with any type of ailment, but specifically, as we've addressed in this series, we are talking about healing spinal complications as using relaxation as a piece of the puzzle to solve those problems. So what are some options for working on relaxation? Now, there are lots of options, so we're just going to focus on a few key ones. Number one, it's simple. It doesn't need any equipment. It's deep breathing. Some people refer to this approach as diaphragmatic breathing, but in essence, what you're trying to do is you're trying to improve the capacity of your diaphragm to carry out its main primary function, and that is to help with the inhalation as well as exhalation of air. Other techniques include meditation. Meditation, you could consider aromatherapy or fruits and herbs smells in addition to the meditation techniques. Music and art therapy. If you're a huge music connoisseur as myself, I find incredible relaxation in listening to some of my favorite tunes. This is going to vary from one person to the next. It could be just your favorite band or your favorite album. Some of your favorite songs can work for some of those relaxation moments. Nature and observation walks. Now, there's a lot to be said about getting away from some of these external stimuli that batter us each and every day, and getting away from the noises of the city, getting yourself into either a park or better yet, somewhere completely outside of the city limits where you can just you can hear the wind blow, you can hear the chirping of birds or other critters by you, you can watch movement. You can just truly give respect for what God has built us and get yourself lost in nature. These are just a few of the many myriad of opportunities to create relaxation for the mental psyche. Now let's tie this all back in. Let's tie this all back in with discogenic or other types of lower back pain. One of the biggest barriers we experience is the concept and the notion of fear. Fear of creating further harm in the body, or fear of doing something that they think will contradict what trained individuals might suggest. And with a little working knowledge that healing is a likelihood rather than an uncertainty goes a long way for healing those spinal ailments. So in summary, we've wrapped up this discussion to indicate that relaxation is a critical component. It's only one piece of the puzzle, but it is a critical component to overcoming your back complications. So we've now covered a couple concepts over this series. We've discussed rest, we've discussed relaxation. In future videos, we're going to continue this discussion. But in the comments down below, let us know what your thoughts are around relaxation. What techniques have you found useful? What techniques are out there that I didn't mention that you think others should know about? Share your information down below so all of us can benefit. As always, thank you for your time. We'll talk to you soon.